Meeting. Our first item on the agenda is City Council Staff Report by Deborah Owen, City Clerk and Chief of Council Operations.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. A couple of reminders, if I may, to begin. There will be a breakfast club meeting with the county commissioners, and that will have a discussion about the Safe Home Building Project and operational components of the Safe Home Project this Wednesday at Leonardo's at 7:30 a.m. In addition, there will be a groundbreaking, I believe, tomorrow on affordable housing. There's been a press release that's been sent out by Randy Bartunik, and that will be at 11 a.m. tomorrow at the Sioux Falls Community Development. The Sioux Falls Housing Corporation are hosting it, and it will be the new facility located at 505 South Duluth Avenue in the Pettigrew Heights neighborhood is where the groundbreaking will occur. In addition, there will be public hearings about affordable housing this Thursday at 3 o'clock and at 6 o'clock to get feedback for, there's an affordable housing study available, and we have a consultant who's working on that with the city and with other officials and the industry. And so if you have comments and want to talk about that, please come to those public hearings this Thursday at 3 and 6 o'clock at the Carnegie Town Hall. In addition, if I could, just to let you all know, the council is very supportive of a program through the International Municipal Clerks Association where our staff gets designated of a certified municipal clerk or a CMC, if you will. And this last week, we had our Jamie Palmer, who has finished her 3 years of coursework and has been certified as a CMC through the IIMC, which is an international organization and has 15 countries who are a part of that international organization, along with 10,000 members. So done with the commercials now, and then on to, one more, pardon me, the Governor's Economic Development Conference will be this week, and I know that I've invited both council members and council members-elect to the events I just spoke about and others, but to let you know, that just came in your mailbox or your email box today, so please respond ASAP on that if you'd like to attend either the dinner or the entire conference. And then just an update on elections. As you know, we have absentee voting going on now at the county admin building between 8 and 5. This Saturday, there'll be absentee voting between 8 and noon at the county admin building. And again, our numbers are up, it appears, but we don't see a direct correlation. We won't really anticipate that with the election day on April 27th. And then as my apologies also for those of you who came in through a different door. You can see we're very busy with the election and have our command center, if you will, in our overflow room. And so thank you for understanding and going through the other door. And then finally to the agenda tonight. There's a couple of things just to take note of. Item 32 in particular, it is the correction of there were some drafting errors in the ordinance that came before council. You approved it as such. There was one section that was codified in the wrong location, if you will, in the wrong ordinance. And then another one, there was wanted to be an RS2, and it was mistakenly put down as an RS1. So that's what you're changing in that ordinance, is codifying one section, section 15 or .03.010 in the proper location, and then the other one is changing that designation from RS1 to RS2. Both of those errors were discovered when we were proofing the codifying of that law, and so it had to come back for council to change those sections of law. And that's everything. Thank you.
Well, first let me just say, Jamie, congratulations, and thank you for all your hard work on City Council. Next item on the agenda is Mayor Munson's office. I think we have Deborah Gaikowski, transit planner.
There will be two items coming before the City Council this evening regarding transit. One item is a resolution to reduce the paratransit service hours and to add a demand response evening bus service. Paratransit service currently runs until 10 p.m. each evening and fixed route until approximately 8 p.m. Over the past year, a pilot project has been underway. Thank you. The pilot project has been underway, which has opened up the evening paratransit service
between the hours of 8 and 10 p.m. to the general public. The cost was the same for both the general public and the disabled, and the policies and procedures were exactly the same. Paratransit service does not experience the amount of ridership in the evening hours as it does during the day. And because of this, we decided to start this pilot project to get more people on the bus and to basically make it more efficient. A lot of times there's paratransit buses running in the evenings that only have 1 or 2 riders on it. So this was a way of filling up the buses a bit more. And a bonus of the program is that 99% of the people of the general public that use the service used it to get to or from a job. On average, paratransit service provides approximately 180 rides per month between the hours of 8 and 10 p.m. In March, the pilot project provided 86 rides to the general public during that same time. So at this time, we'd like to formalize a demand response evening bus service between the hours of 8 and 10 p.m. and reduce the paratransit service hours to 8 p.m. This will ensure that the transportation services will continue for the general public, but will also have a transportation service for the disabled as well. So anyone needing transportation between those hours have the availability of this demand response evening bus service. The paratransit buses will be used to provide that service. The cost will be $4 a ride, which is what it is right now. And the service will be available again for both the people with disabilities and the general public. In 2007, the Accessible Transportation for All Study Group completed a report after several months of analyzing the city's transit system, and Councilmember Knutson was on that study group. One of the recommendations they came up with was to equalize the paratransit service with the fixed route service. And this is a way of accomplishing that with nobody missing out on any type of service. So, would you have any questions on that particular resolution?
Councilor Anderson?
Okay, Deborah, this project, was that started with a grant or extra money?
Yes, it was. We got job access, reverse commute, grant funds through South Dakota DOT. They're kind of the middleman between the federal government. It helped pay for 50% of the operating costs between the hours of 8 and 10.
What kind of savings are we going to get by this switching to this type of service in the evening?
We will be able to continue to get that grant, which prior to the pilot project, we had no grant for those evening services. So we will be able to continue to get that.
And all riders must give a 24-hour notice to ride that?
It's not really
or-
24 hours. It's by 5 p.m. the day before. But yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Brown?
Deborah, could you give me more of a sense of the demographic of those 86 that used it in March, who they are? And you said most of them were going to their jobs. Is that correct?
A lot of them are what you call subscription rides, where they get the ride every night at basically the same time. A lot of them are in service-type positions, work at the mall, that kind of thing. So that type of person, I guess, in that income category.
And what does this do? Help me from a money aspect understand, because as I remember it, each paratransit ride costs about $23 a ride. Does this increase our loss? Does it level it out because we're getting more riders? What does it do to us in the bottom line?
Actually, it's a benefit because our buses are out there anyway, so we're getting more people on the buses. Plus, we're able to get these grant funds to help subsidize the operating costs between those hours of 8 and 10, whereas prior to this, it was just paratransit service, and we weren't eligible for that. And we're eligible as long as we can show that people are using it to get to work, which is one reason why we were tracking it.
And do we know what has the effect been on the private sector?
No, I really don't have that information.
Okay.
Any other questions for Deborah?
I do have a member of our Public Transit Advisory Board here, just to show support for this, Chris Schultz. Chris, would you come?
Thanks, Chris, for being here.
The second item that's coming before you tonight is the first reading of an amendment to the ordinance establishing transit fares. One reason we need to do some changes is if this resolution passes, we just need to do some housekeeping things, some semantics, to make it sound proper. We'll take out the paratransit evening rate and put in a demand response rate. Another thing coming up is we are purchasing some fare boxes with our stimulus grant funds for our fixed route buses, and they're more up to date and they give us a lot more options. A lot of it's going to be magnetic cards. So what we'd like to do is introduce more options to the riders themselves, like a $3 one-day pass and a 1 week pass for $10. And a 1 month pass for the elderly and the disabled. And we'd also like to introduce those 1 day and 1 week for the elderly and disabled that is at a discounted rate as well. And we'd like to change, right now we do have a discounted rate for the elderly, but it's 60 years old and above. We'd like to change that to 65 years old and above, because that's pretty much the standard throughout the transit industry. So any questions on that?
Any questions from the council? Nope, I think we're good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah. Anyone else here wishing to speak for the mayor's office? Okay, we'll move on. Audit committee?
No report.
Fiscal committee?
No report.
Land use committee?
No report.
Public service committee?
No report.
City council open discussion. Councilor Knudsen.
Actually, just a couple very quick items, and actually I have mentioned both of these, but now it's closer to the time, so I couldn't resist. It's this Saturday, April 24th. That's the 4th annual Whittier Neighborhood Cleanup, and so that again runs from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And in the Whittier neighborhood, and again, the Johnstone Supply people are just fabulous in letting us use their parking lot for the entire day to have things dropped off. And then also, today is the actual day that the public can start ordering its tickets for Sound of Music. I did a little commercial for the Orpheum and the Sect at Sioux Empire Community Theater recently, but actually today is the real day, and that number again is 360-4800, and that play begins on April 30th and runs 3 weekends in a row. And again, on Friday and Saturday nights, the play is performed at 8 p.m., and then the matinee is always on Sunday at 2 p.m. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Dee. Any other open discussion for the council? Councilor Brown?
Just an acknowledgement, because Councilor Knudsen is too humble to say it herself, but that Whittier project, we should remind people, is a result of her hard work on this council, and tons of garbage have come out of that neighborhood as the result of her hard work.
Thank you. Any other open discussion items before we go into our presentations? Seeing none, we'll move on. The first one is a Sioux Falls Beautiful Committee update by Russ Sorensen, Urban Planner.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. It's with great pleasure that I have the opportunity to introduce to you Sioux Falls Beautiful. We have members here this afternoon, and Dr. Tom Killian is here to provide you with some remarks as to who they are and what they do and what will happen later on this evening. Dr. Killian?
Thank you, Ross. My name is Tom Killian, and I live at 2700 South Jefferson. I am a member of the board of Sioux Falls Beautiful. We have some officers here. I'd like to present them now. Jennifer Schmidt-Bauer, secretary. Up, please. And Mark Thomas is treasurer. And we have a couple board members. Trudy Peckham is here. And Russ is on the board. And also our planner, Mike Cooper, is present with us. We're happy to have the opportunity to, I think, introduce you to Sioux Falls Beautiful. It may well be that you've heard very little or may know nothing at all about it. Is Sorensen sponsor of 3 awards that are to be presented this evening at your meeting by the mayor, and the awards are in recognition of unusual merit in working to make Sioux Falls a more attractive place to live and work. Our hope is to continue these awards in the future. There will be 3 of them tonight. Individual homes and yards or grounds one for commercial places, public places, and a Community Leadership Award. Now, who or what is Sioux Falls Beautiful? It's local, it's private, it's nonprofit, it's a 501c3. It was founded 13 years ago. It's not related to any other group, and it's not a knockoff from some larger organization. It's freestanding and beholden to no one. It's governed by a board of directors, some of whom you've seen already, who must be committed to and dedicated to the purposes of the organization. And what are its purposes? Rather simple and straightforward. To work to improve the landscape of Sioux Falls, to make it the most attractive place possible to live and to work. You have on your handout a list, by the way, of the Board of Directors so that you can see who they are. Where did it come from and how did it get here? It began in 1997. A group of 7 like-minded people began meeting to discuss ways in which Sioux Falls could be made into an outstanding and a memorable place to visit and to work. The concern was to find means to raise the bar, if you please, in public perception of what was possible here and what it could become. To begin, over the first 2 years, we held meetings with almost every organization in the city in order to learn their ideas and what they thought would be best manner to improve the city, and then what they thought or what their judgment would be as to the usefulness of a group such as this. And we were very, very encouraged by the response. So in 1999, we incorporated, and we began to narrow our focus. What projects should we undertake? Where should we begin? We're a small group with no money, so we decided we have to do some planning, come up with some ideas that people can support, and then find and persuade people to help us to do it. What considerations would there be then to guide our thinking? One was for the good, harmonious design and the use of native materials. Another, use of color. Bright colors, lots of flowers. Banners, flags, the use of color in every possible imaginable way. And imaginative use of light. There are many, many openings for the imagination there. Artistic, creative items such as sculpture, benches, memorials, pools of water, live plantings. You can begin to let the mind go. It begins to get easier. In all, we would work for harmony and design, something that will soothe and uplift the spirit. Our surroundings do matter a very great deal as to what people think of Sioux Falls, what we think of it ourselves. So what's been our experience? So far, the strategy seems to work. People have responded very, very cheerfully. We have had some notable projects come to our attention and to receive our help in the last several years. A large one is the Mary Jo Wegner Arboretum. We worked with, for many months with city planning and with city parks department to develop an arboretum concept and layout. It is named for one of our most useful and helpful founding members, Mary Jo Wegner. Arrowhead Park, we encouraged it as a project and its planning, and I recall speaking myself at its dedication. The I-229 Louise Interchange. We have worked for several years trying to find a solution to providing welcoming spots of welcome along the interstate highways coming into Sioux Falls. Points of greeting, if you please. In cooperation with the Planning Office and the State Department of Highways, we have begun a major effort at the Louise Avenue interchange. The area is being landscaped now, trees and bushes being planted now, and it will become a very, very attractive spot as time goes on and as the project unfolds. We have given early encouragement to Sculpture Walk and provided some volunteer service for that at the time of its launching. More recently, we have been urging the reworking of the 8th Street from Minnesota down to the river, and that is being scheduled for attention. And we have developed a plan, hopefully, for the re-looking at the Van Epps Park. Our thought was to create there a kind of wonderland of flowers, so striking that people going by would remember it. It sits there now as just a little patch of green, unnoticeable. Currently, we've been in discussions with private groups and with the city to assist with the Pettigrew Heights project, and also with the Whittier Neighborhood Volunteer Group. We've been studying a project for what we call urban forestry, and another project for the use of wild flowers and grasses. There is so much more to the story. Probably I can be of the greatest use to you to call your attention to our website, which is on the little sheet that you received of the listing of our directors. It is simply SiouxFallsBeautiful.com. If you can't remember that, Google Sioux Falls Beautiful and it'll come up anyway. And one way or another, please do look at it. I think you'll be well served in terms of the information it supplies. Would like to thank you again for the opportunity to be here today. And one final thing, we solicit your support. In looking at the city from this point of view, in building a case for beautification, and for the consideration of it in your work here. And the reason is simple. It's one of the least expensive and the most widely welcomed and the most immediately effective thing you can do to improve Sioux Falls and view of the visitors and those of us who live here. It can be a very much more attractive place. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions? Councilor
If there's a
Knudsen?
question, I'll be happy to respond.
Thank you so much for your presentation and for all of your group's work. What a wonderful project. And so I assume that like the master gardeners in our community, I know that's a growing number, would they work closely with you, with your group too, and do some of the projects with you guys?
We have a couple master gardeners on our board for that very reason. Mary Ellen Connolly, who's well known to many of you, and the Pashby, both of whom are master gardeners and who are sharp in their work. Keep us posted, keep us directed.
Councilor Litz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Killian, I want to thank you for your work around here. You guys have evidently poked around quite a few places in Sioux Falls, and I'm aware of your work. I just wasn't aware of that you were behind a lot of it, so thank you for that. And you did mention one thing that, there's Van Epps Park that's downtown over here. I've always thought that could be a real important green space, and I'm glad to hear somebody else feels that way as well as I do. So Thanks for thinking of
Yep,
that one.
thank you very much. Other comments?
Councilor Jameson?
Tom, you mentioned a welcome sign near the Louise exit ramp off at 229. Is that?
I'm not so sure about the sign so much as the
Oh,
general impact.
okay,
of
just
what
some
they will
trees.
find there.
Okay. So you didn't-
Findings, we hope to move in some quartzite and other things there that will make it a striking spot.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Dr. Killian or Russ or anyone else? Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much for the committee's work. We appreciate it greatly. The next presentation is the South Dakota State University Lawn Watering Project update by Bonnie Seagraves, Extension Associate. Hello, Bonnie, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here today. Good afternoon, everybody. I am here, again, my name is Bonnie Seagraves. I'm an Extension Associate at South Dakota State University. I'm here with Dr. Todd Troyan, who works with me on this project at South Dakota State as well. And if you can turn your attention to the screen, I've got a PowerPoint presentation to kind of illustrate some of the things that I'll be talking about today. This is a project that is being conducted by South Dakota State University in conjunction with the City of Sioux Falls, so that's why I'm here to tell you about it. It's no secret that having an attractive green lawn is an important thing, especially in urban and suburban communities, and people invest a lot of money and resources into these spaces in order to keep them that way, most notably water, especially in more arid climates. But we're also starting to think about some of these issues here in Sioux Falls. This is a table that I've put together. I've just kind of randomly pulled together some homeowners who live here in Sioux Falls and given you an example of their water usage. And you can see that I've pulled out the estimated outdoor water usage, and it ranges everywhere from a really conservative person who puts 24% of their water onto their grass, all the way up to, say, individual number 8 who puts 75% of the amount of the water that they use onto their turf. So that's quite a bit of water. And it seems like that would be a nice place to think about water conservation efforts is in the residents of the city. And there are a couple of other things associated with irrigation, as I usually refer to it as sprinkler systems. They're difficult for most people to manage. They're kind of complicated. They're not very intuitive. Sometimes they require some additional information in how grass grows and what the climate's been doing in order to manage the amount of water you're putting on your grass. Most people tend to treat their irrigation systems as a set it and forget it sort of deal where they put the times in and they kind of leave it all summer long. Rain sensors are a fabulous addition, although not all that many people have them as far as I am aware. I don't know the exact numbers. But their ability to conserve water is limited in the fact that they can tell the system when not to water, but they can't give that system any indication of how much water has fallen. If you get a really big rainstorm, you can postpone irrigation for quite a while. Whereas if you have just a small rainfall, that rain sensor can't tell the difference between the two. Just another point that's kind of come up in the progress of this project is that as new homes go in, it's very common for irrigation systems to be put in, and oftentimes there's competition between the people who install these, and a lot of people tend to choose the most affordable option. But sometimes the consequence of this can be that you have an irrigation system that isn't as well designed, it doesn't cover the area very well, and so the drawback is that you need to run that system for more time in order to appropriately water all the areas in the lawn. And a way that we can actually determine the performance of an irrigation system is to conduct an audit. And I'll tell you a little bit more about those in a second. But we have done quite a few audits. We've done over 40 audits on irrigation systems here in Sioux Falls. This table shows you what we consider to be different performance levels by the Irrigation Association, which is a national irrigation organization. And you can see that on the far right we have the averages of the volunteers who are part of this project. You can see that that performance level is pretty low. The good news is that that's very typical for residential systems. It's not just a Sioux Falls thing or anything like that, but it does point to something that we can think about in terms of improving the water usage of these irrigation systems. So the question is, can we do better with water usage and lawn watering? It's important to keep in mind that South Dakota has a continental climate, so it is required to supply additional water during the hottest months of the year. Most people, if they don't water, they will eventually end up with a dead lawn. One of the projects, or one of the ideas that we're working with this project is to incorporate this thing we call evapotranspiration, which is a horticultural term. It's the loss of water both from plants and from soil surface. And it varies throughout the course of the growing season. And currently there are new controllers on the market that utilize this information. They can tell, how much water has been used and how much water is going away, and can we just replace that instead of using time. This is a table that was put together by one of our project members, and the main point that I just want to illustrate with this is in the column of potential water savings. Those potential water savings add up to about 30%. So if we could reduce people's water use by 30% of what they're putting on their lawn, that would be a pretty significant improvement. As I mentioned, we are doing this project in cooperation with the city, specifically with the Department of Public Works has been working with us on this. We are involved with a lot of volunteer homeowners who are in the city, approximately 40. And every person needs to have an in-ground irrigation system and be on the city water metering system in order to participate. That's how we generate our data. So basically the point is, can we save water if we switch our irrigation to, instead of time-based schedules like what most people have, to an ET-based or climate-based watering schedule? This is just a map showing where a lot of our participants are located, mostly on the outskirts of town. And then we've divided those participants up into 3 groups. Our control group, who keeps all of the same equipment that they have, the same controller, everything stays the same for them. And then for our 100% and 70% ET replacement groups, we have given them new irrigation controllers. And these controllers get weather data that comes from the airport, and that basically informs that how to run its watering schedule. As I mentioned, we've done audits on every single participant's irrigation system so that we know how they perform, and then we also incorporate that information when we program the new controllers. The controller comes from a company called ET Water. They're based out of California. These controllers do require that the homeowner has a phone connection, et cetera, so that they can receive that data. This is what it looks like. It looks a little bit different from the typical irrigation controller. It's a little bit more intuitive than what most people are used to working with. We incorporate all of this information about the individual's landscape into this controller too. So it knows how much sun the particular site is getting, the slope, the soil texture, and all of these things contribute to the amount of time that it decides to water a particular area of the lawn. Here's the website of the company that we are working with. And then these controllers also have an added benefit of having online accessibility. So you can go in and actually see what each zone does. You can see how much time that they've been running, when they're scheduled to run. These can be managed completely from an online account. So you can manage your irrigation system anywhere. This is one particular zone, and it will even show a water droplet indicating when it's watered or any other events that have happened. So basically, that's what we did last summer, in the summer of 2009. We installed these controllers in volunteers' homes, got them set up, got them running, and let them go for the course of the summer. And then at the end of the growing season, we collected their water use from the city. And we basically were able to pull out an estimated outdoor water use, and that helped us look at, did these controllers actually help them, change or improve their water use. We also did a turf quality survey on each person's lawn so that we could take a look at the grass and see, did it still look acceptable under a restricted watering schedule? And finally, we sent out surveys to all the homeowners to get an idea of what they thought, because their perceptions matter to us as well. So this is the data from 2009. The blue bars are from 2008 for comparison, and we did find some surprising things. So in order to make this a little bit more readable for you, the deficit column is really what we're trying to match, because if you water up to that deficit level, that means that you're meeting what rainfall has not already met in terms of, what's been lost. So we can see that our control group, who didn't change anything at all, watered the least amount last summer. Our 70% was right about on target with our deficit. And then our 100% group watered a little bit more than the deficit. Obviously, we would like that 100% group to meet the deficit and everybody to be lower and our control group to be higher in theory. But I suspect that we may have some participant bias in the fact that a lot of these folks are probably, if they're interested in being part of a water conservation project, they probably already conserve water on their own. Some people even choose not to water at all. We had a couple of folks in that control group who did that, and I'm sure those affected some of those numbers. But I expect, too, that in this next growing season, we'll have some more data to add to this, and that may help us fill out the picture a little bit more. Thrift quality ratings were pretty simple. We rated them on a 1 to 5 scale on a variety of components. These were the pictures that we rated. You can see a range of everything that looks, beautifully green, lush, and thick to something that looks like it's probably been growing in the shade and is not nearly as uniform. And then we also did like a broad-ranging assessment of what the overall appearance of the lawn looked like. And here's one more image of a participant's lawn. And then this is the table showing the results of that. And we can see, not surprisingly, the 100% group who used the most water had the best appearing turf. However, I don't think the differences between these three would justify the extra water use. So kind of an interesting outcome there. And then finally, with the homeowner survey, we wanted to get some information from them in terms of how they cared for their turf. And most people were pretty satisfied with the performance of the new controller and how their lawn looked at the end of it. Those who were not satisfied also tended to be individuals who had trouble getting the new system established. So I don't know what the correlation was there, but that just kind of seemed to be the case. So looking ahead with this project, we're definitely going to continue through the summer of 2010. And we hope to add a few more participants, including hopefully a commercial and a public space, so that we can, the more numbers we get, the more helpful that this project will be. And ultimately, we'd like to contribute to any efforts that Sioux Falls has in water conservation by either providing educational opportunities for either homeowners or contractors, along those lines. And extension is an important part of this project. So those are the things that we're thinking about for this coming year. I have lots of people to acknowledge in helping us with this project, but I especially appreciate the support that the city has given us in having a place to conduct a project like this. It's been very informative. And with that, I'd be happy to take your questions.
Councilor Knudsen.
Bonnie, if citizens out there who are listening to who listen to your informative presentation would like to volunteer to be in the next year's program, would you like them to call you, and if so, at what number, or do you have a different system where you kind of randomly choose your own homes to work with?
Oh, we definitely accept volunteers, and if they're interested, they can call me on campus. My number is 605-688-4776, and I'd be happy to talk to them about the project.
Would you just say that number one more time, please?
605-688-4776.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Jamieson.
Bonnie, the ET controller, did I hear that right? That's kind of set up to be the best lawn you could ask for based on the weather conditions and the rain that falls? Is that right?
Yeah, what the controller tries to do is incorporate real-time weather data, and when you operate it on a fully automated system, so basically you let it do what the software in it is capable of doing, in theory, it's supposed to water when it is needed and no more. So it will know if there has been rainfall or if there have been windy, hot conditions that would contribute to a greater need for water. It's supposed to meet those very specifically, and beyond that, you shouldn't be caught in a situation where you're, watering for 20 minutes every other day when you've had a really wet period.
I guess the question maybe is if that's 100%, as good as you can get, and as well as you could maintain your yard, would there be a way to turn that maybe to 85?
Absolutely,
or 90%?
yeah.
So you're trying to
Absolutely.
conserve water. You don't need the best yard in the neighborhood
Yes.
like Pat's.
Yes, that's what our the 70% group is actually that percentage down
Okay,
in
good.
order to see if we cut that back, are we still getting an acceptable result? And we're thinking of even reducing those more for this coming summer. Yes.
Councilor Bannigan?
Bonnie, obviously water is a big issue for this community and the surrounding area, but the question I have is is there a way to track when we do the educational programs to see if there's changes in behavior? It seems to me that we ride kind of a roller coaster when we looked at that the last time, and it was people just make the assumption that water is going to be there all the time.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't have a really good answer for you other than, to me that it seems that a lot of people really don't think about this very much or aren't very aware of how that water is being used on their yard. And that's what the educational component would be to empower them with the information they need in terms of how to use these systems most efficiently. And other than by looking at their water use, I'm not sure how you could track behavioral changes.
Bonnie, I just had a question for you. How did you determine what was inside usage and outside usage?
We did that by looking at the full year's water usage. So we took the average water use during the winter, which we're assuming is typical indoor water use, and we subtracted that from what was outdoor during the summer months.
And then what's the difference between the 70% and the 100% group?
100% means that we have a weekly rate of an ET rate, which means that's the amount of water that's being lost over the course of that week, for instance. And 100% means that we would replace 100% of whatever was not met by rainfall. So you're trying to meet that exactly, but if we have 70%, we're not going to replace everything that's been lost through ET, but we're going to replace most of it. So that would be the reduced rate.
Thank you. And
Yes.
Councilor Knudsen?
Not another question for Bonnie, but I was just thinking when I drove to work today and it was 73 degrees, it reminded me that I was wondering with our Assistant Director of Public Works, Kevin Smith, here, would it be possible to just let him come up and just remind the world, at least in Sioux Falls, what the real restrictions are on the books right now for watering?
Sure, and let's finish up with some questions here. I think Councilor Anderson's got one for Bonnie, too. So,
How many subjects or examples did you have in this survey?
We've got 12 in the 100% group, we've got 10 in the 70% group, and we've got, I think, 19 or 20 in our control group, and we'd really like to increase that.
Thank you.
any other questions from Councilor Litz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In 1990, I came back here from Palm Springs, and it was kind of ironic because we had a lot of Midwesterners who moved to the desert and did the same thing out there as they did here, and that is they planted lawns, paid somebody to put the sod down, they paid to water it, they paid to fertilize it, paid to spray it, and paid to have somebody mow it and throw it away. And if I took my shoes off and walked across it because I thought it looked good, they didn't appreciate that. I think we're going to come to rue the day when we're squirting perfectly good drinking water on our lawns. And, up there at SDSU, I'm aware of quite a few things that school has done pioneering in crops. Weather-resistant, drought-resistant crops, 60-day corn versus, all these wonderful things. And the thing that occurs to me, and maybe to Tom there, is I like the way a good green lawn looks as well as just everybody does. But, is there any potential for developing species of grass that, are more drought-resistant, that use less water? I think this is something that we're going to have to really look at in the future. I mean, we just, like Gerald said, we just bonded $70 million to take care of some of our future water needs, and, is that going to last 50 years? Nobody here really knows that. So, has there been any thought about what I just said about the grass species?
Absolutely. In areas that are more water restricted than we are, there has been a lot of development in drought-tolerant grasses. The only thing is that for some reason they haven't been adopted here yet. I'm not sure why that is, if it's just that Kentucky bluegrass is available and affordable. That seems to be the predominant thing that most people use, but we have a faculty member on campus who has done a lot of work with buffalo grass, and he claims that he can go all summer and it looks pretty happy and healthy and doesn't need any water. So there are options for people who are interested in that.
It sounds interesting. Thanks for your work on this. It's a very interesting presentation.
Any other questions for Bonnie? Thank you very much, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Kevin Smith with the Office of Public Works. First, I'd like to point out that it's completely coincidental that we followed the Sioux Falls Beautiful project, but I think there is, in all seriousness, a real tie-in between the way a community looks, which is important, but also to balance that with the needs to provide safe and reliable drinking water to our citizens. And we really do have an incredible resource there at South Dakota State University, folks like Todd and Bonnie willing to do these research projects for the sake of research and also provide the citizens of Sioux Falls with some really good hints and tips on how to best maintain your lawn. That being said, the current lawn watering schedule we have in place is an odd-even system. So if you have an odd-number street address, you have the opportunity to water your lawn on odd-numbered days. Same thing with even-numbered street addresses, and no lawn watering between the hours of noon and 5, mainly because of the amount of evaporation that takes place during those hours of the day. Your lawn isn't getting the benefit that it probably would get from watering early in the day. And if anybody has any questions, they can certainly contact the Office of Public Works at 367-8600 about water conservation measures. And as time goes on, we just want to get smarter at what we do and help our citizens conserve water.
Thanks, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin? No? All right, then. Before we adjourn, is there any other City Council open discussion? Councilor Knudsen?
Do we have much on our agenda next week? In other words, with this beautiful weather, I was wondering if we really don't have much, could we take the informational off for the end of the month? I mean, I'm all for meeting if there's, something.
I think there are some items coming down the pike for us on Monday. If it looks thin, we'll look at canceling.
If it gets really thin, could we move them to the first Monday in May?
Certainly. We'll take a look at that. Any other open, Councilor Litz?
Just one more thing here. Our local sports teams there, the indoor football season is, in full swing right now. And our team went down to Wichita, Kansas and beat a rather good team down there. But Coach Curtis Riggs with the Storm has had his 100th win with that team. And I thought that was rather commendable and rather notable. There's nobody else in that league that has ever done anything close to that. So Sioux Falls has another very good coach in our midst here, and he's staying here. So.
Well, thanks for that update, Bob. Councilor Jameson?
I thought I might just recognize a few people in the crowd who are going to be new fixtures on the Sioux Falls City Council, if you guys thought that'd be appropriate. Got a couple people standing out there. If they'd like to stand up maybe and not introduce yourselves, but at least be recognized. Congratulations.
Could you share their names with the listening public?
Michelle Oppenbach, we have on the left there. If you guys, I guess on the TV you might be able to see, but Jim Intaman, Sue Aguilar, and Rex Rolfing. Welcome.
Any other open discussion? It's just a way of information. We will be having a Sioux Falls Council Minnehaha County Commission joint meeting at 5 o'clock, so if you would like to stick around and stay tuned, we'd like to have your attendance. And if nothing else, we will adjourn.